broadcasting live from Houston, from the space city to the world. You are watching Now Media Television.
Hey everyone, this is Attorney Mac, Pierre, and I'm here again with my partner in crime, Natalia, Lasko, Czajka. And we are here back to talk about some legal topics on this important show, Legal Talk with Natalia and Mac. And let me let Natalia get in here for a second before we move on.
Thank you so much. This is the first time we're experimenting with this show, Mac being in Houston, me being online in Warsaw, Poland, and Mac being in his plain and fantastic day, and I am being now, I was looking outside of the window in absolute darkness, having the artificial light around me. I am Natalia Czajka. I live in Warsaw, where I also practice as a lawyer and mediator. And it is my great pleasure to introduce you to the next topic we are having. And this is, again, even a greater pleasure because I'll be interviewing Mac about something that unfortunately might happen to many of us, which is the crisis in the relationship and people considering splitting in their relationship. Mac is a family law attorney in Houston, Texas, and he's dealing a lot with those issues, and he's giving a lot of pre-divorce and divorce advice. And this is why I wanted to take advantage of that, Mac, and ask you, tell me, if a client comes to you and asks, I think my marriage is going through something very difficult, I want to divorce, what are your first words to these clients?
Well, my first words are always that I'm never going to recommend that a party divorce your spouse. I think that's a very personal and sensitive topic that needs to be between that person and their heart. But we know the truth, and the facts are that marriages end in divorce. And when parties do find themselves moving towards that direction, and now the parties start becoming at odds, they start lawyering up, and potentially they have a third person, a judge, who can come in the middle and intervene and make decisions that will impact their children, their property, and their lives forever. Then this becomes a very serious topic where they need to sometimes get a lawyer to give them legal advice on what can and cannot happen, what their experience shows, what is likely to happen. But the basics to start off with would be the length of time for such a situation called a divorce. The basic length of time at minimum is 2 months in Texas. Why? Because Texas law requires that from the date of filing the divorce until the final resolution, at minimum, a judge has to wait 60 days to grant the divorce. And why is that? The law assumes that many couples can reconcile, and if people can't reconcile, make up, fix the relationship, it's a good thing. It's good for children, and it's good for stability in our society. And so that minimum 60-day requirement that your divorce has to sit there before it can be finalized is something that people need to remember. Now, there are exceptions to that, of course. Sometimes the parties can find exceptions to say, well, I'm facing family violence. I don't want to wait 2 months. Or I'm going to be deployed in the military, or someone's going to pass away and we need to have a marriage done pretty quickly. There are exceptions and the judges can make them, but typically the first thing I would say, hey, consider the fact that you're going to be in this thing for at least 2 months and possibly 2 years, because unfortunately divorces can take a very, very long time to go through.
Tell me, what are the jurisdictional requirements? Who can come to get divorced in Houston, in Texas?
So when it comes to space, a second ago we talked about time, but when it comes to space, we need to remember a few things. One, you have to live in the state of Texas for at least 6 months. And two, you have to be a resident of the county for at least 90 days, and where you're going to be filing for divorce. But that doesn't mean you have to be the one to satisfy those two requirements, the 6-month rule or the 90-day rule. The other spouse could be the one that satisfies those requirements, but at least somebody, at least one of you, has to satisfy those requirements of having lived here for 6 months and having resided here for 90 days in the particular county where you're going to file. There's different kinds of divorces that might touch. There's in rem divorces. There's divorces where one person lives in one state and the other one lives in a different state. So this question of jurisdiction can get complicated, actually. We're sometimes filing motions to transfer venue where a divorce happens in one county, but in another county is where the children actually live. And so it gets a little tricky, but people are recommended to get a lawyer to ask those specific questions because it's very fact dependent on where the divorce can be filed and how long it might take. So that's jurisdiction.
And we are not giving anybody any legal advice, but is there a case, is there an instance where someone who wants to go and file for divorce will not be granted one? So can a petition for divorce be dismissed?
Yeah, so very, very quickly, most states in this country are no-fault divorce states, or in Texas, what we call irreconcilable differences. Basically, you don't get along, you can have a divorce. Whether or not that's ethical or moral and that should be grounds for divorce, that's a deeper philosophical question. But more or less, anybody who wants a divorce can get one as long as you can show that the ends of the marital relationship are not going to be furthered by people staying married. And so it's a big question you just asked, but because of time and the limitations and the fact that this is not legal advice, we would recommend that people go to a lawyer and ask these fundamental basic questions. But of course, if it's not irreconcilability, no-fault divorce, then there's of course cruelty, abandonment, felony conviction. There's many different other reasons for cause, but the most common reason you see all the time is the irreconcilable differences reason.
And what about the fact when someone during the divorce process gets pregnant?
Threats typically happen, and this is why we have family violence laws. And so that's another reason somebody might want to go to a lawyer and ask the questions, hey, what about this family violence that's occurring, especially if there are kids? So that's at the point where we have to stop the chat, but we can definitely continue it at another part where we discuss this issue of the fundamental basics of divorce within Texas. And thank you so much, Natalia, for asking me these questions. And hopefully it's educational for some people who are listening and watching this. And be sure to check us out on the LMI podcast online and learn more at alaskapierre.com. Thanks so much.